The parts list organizer command allows to reorganize the display of parts in a parts list. Source parts list is chosen. The list order of the part categories and parts can be altered and saved as a new parts list. Frequently used categories and parts can be moved to the top of the list for easy access. Parts list organizer is developed and provided by WizDot. The parts list organizer is really a convenience tool. It's not used for any particular workflow. It's just a nice tool to have that allows you to reorder items in a parts list. If I look at one of my parts lists in my drawing here, if I go to the Settings tab, Pipe Network, Parts Lists, and open up a parts list, you see these are in a particular order. If I try to drag these around, I can't. If I right-click on them, there's no option for me to move them. They are stuck in this order in which they were created. I can only either add a part family or add a part size. I can't do anything else to the order of these parts. I can't do anything to the individual parts either. But there's a tool. If I go to the MDT design ribbon and Pipe Network and Parts List Organizer, I have the Parts List Organizer, and the first thing I need to do is pick a parts list source. So whatever drawing I'm in is going to list the parts lists that are in that drawing, and we're going to start with that parts list. So I choose the MDT drainage parts list, and I have two tabs here, a pipes order tab and a structure orders tab. If I expand these out, I have my categories. If I keep expanding, I have my part sizes. And what I can do here is just grab one and drag it and move it up or down in the list. So maybe I use particular parts more often than others and I want them at the top of the list. This is a good tool to fix your parts list for that reason. Or maybe I just don't like the order of the parts, the default parts. I can make my own parts list here. So I just drag them. I can also move individual parts. There's also a alphabetized button here. If I click that, it's going to put them all in alphabetical order. Maybe that's something that you might want to do. Do this with the structures as well. You just drag it up or down in the list wherever you want it to be. And then once you have your list the way you want it, you can save it out as a new parts list. And this is key here. If you do not put a name here in the new parts list and click OK, it's going to crash. So make sure that you put a name here. I'm just going to call this my parts list. And I'm going to click OK. And it's doing its thing right now. You can see down here at the bottom right, it's building the parts list. And it's finished. And if I now look in my settings tab under my networks parts list, I can see that my parts list is now in this drawing. So when I create a pipe network, I can now choose my parts list instead of the other parts list. Now to take this a step further, you can save this parts list out to another drawing. If I create a new drawing, I'm going to go back to my other drawing and I'm going to save it first. And this is just the startup template. There's nothing in it here. I'm just going to save it out as a temporary file. And the reason I want to save this is so that the parts list is saved so that I can bring the parts list from this drawing into my other drawing. So if I go back to my other drawing, I want to look at my settings tab, and at the top here it says active drawing settings view. I want to switch this so it says master view. When I switch it to master view, It's going to show me all the drawings that are open in my session right now. So what I want to do is I'm in drawing 2. I want to drill through drawing 1, find my parts list, and drag it. I'm going to left click here, hold down, and drag it into my drawing 2. Now if I look under my drawing 2, you can see that my parts list is now in this drawing. So if I take this another step further, I can go ahead and I can save this drawing, and I can save it to my user folder and just call it my parts list and save it. And this is the user folder in the state kit. Under state kit, Civil 3D and user. You can also use this handy button here as a shortcut to get to it. Now I have this parts list saved in a separate drawing, so if I'm working in another project and I want to grab my parts list, I can just grab the drawing from my user folder, open it up, and then drag the parts list into the drawing that I need it in.